my name is Sarah, and today we're talking about The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslye Walton. If you watch my September haul and my October TBR videos, you know that I bought this book in the month of September and intended to read it in the month of October. It is the first fiction book I wound up picking up, and true to my prediction, I actually finished it before my October TBR video even went live. This book was recommended to me a little over a year ago by Mari when I tweeted out that I was looking for some recommendations on new stories to read, and I am so glad that she recommended it because I loved this story. The story follows a girl named Ava Lavender who is normal in every way except for the fact that she was born with wings. Narrated by Ava, she recounts her family's history starting all the way back with her great-grandmother and grandfather who immigrated to the United States from France with her grandmother, who then made the trek from New York City all the way across the country to Washington State. She recounts her grandmother and her mother's life and eventually tells her own story of growing up and living in and around Seattle, Washington with a pair of wings. First things first, this book is straight up weird, but I absolutely loved it. Mari told me before I started it that it was a little bit strange, and that was something that turned a lot of people off to it, but she really enjoyed it, and that if I wasn't able to get past the strangeness of the story, I probably wouldn't like it, but honestly, I absolutely loved it. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars for several reasons, one of which being it was just so weird and I just loved it. This book contains a lot of magical realism, which is where you sort of live in this world that we all know and love, but there are elements of magic thrown in, not in the same way that you have in a situation like Harry Potter where you have wizards. It's just magic just sort of happens sometimes and there's not really necessarily an explanation for it. It just is a thing. The thing that I noticed from the very beginning, even when I was sort of like, okay, this is a really weird story, was Leslye Walton's writing style. It is beautiful. Like, girl knows how to write. Her descriptions of characters and emotions and situations and locations and just everything was so lovely. It's lyrical and whimsical and fantastical, and just the way that she writes causes you to just accept really whatever happens, even in those moments where the magical realism pops up and you have this split second of that's not normal. It's only a split second because just the way that she writes causes you to accept that really anything can happen, be it a person turning into a bird or a person being born with wings. Something else that I particularly enjoyed about this story is that in a lot of respects, it's just a story told for the sake of telling a story. And I am obviously a huge advocate for stories that can change your thought, your perspective on different things, that can even in many cases change your life. Stories that have really deep and awesome themes and philosophical questions that make you really ponder over them and think through them and want to talk about them with other people. I obviously love those things, but I also can appreciate just a story being told simply because it needs to be told. My deep love and affection for these characters totally snuck up on me because I really was just reading it, going along thinking this is a weird but lovely story. All of a sudden I realized I had this deep love and affection for these characters and I wanted them more than anything to just be happy. If I had to say the book was about one thing in particular, I would say that it's about love. And I know that that sounds super general, but that's about as specific as you can get. Because Walton attacks all sorts of different relationships in this story. And really, that's sort of what you follow is Ava and her mother and her grandmother's relationships and how those changed both their own lives and the lives of their family for better and for worse. She tackles everything from young love to unrequited love to betrayal through love to love that lingers and holds on in spite of all odds and still hopes, to love that opens your heart and breaks your heart, to love that shuts you down and makes you hide from the world, to love that opens you up to a whole new world. Like pretty much any kind of love that you can think of, she pretty much puts it in there so that you can ponder it. And she doesn't put it in there in a way that argues a specific point, like you shouldn't love this way because of X, Y, or Z thing that could happen. It's sort of just, these are all of the ways that love affected the women in this family. take what you will with it. If you are a fan of whimsical, lyrical, fantastical writing, and especially if you're a fan of the magical realism kind of situations, I am sure that you will absolutely adore this book. If you don't love the magical realism so much, if you really can't get behind the idea of a girl born with wings without anyone in her family having been born with wings, or a person literally turning into a bird, then you might not be able to get behind this book, and that's totally okay. But I absolutely loved this book. I highly, highly recommend it, and I am super glad that Mari told me about it. Well, there you have it, friends. That is my review on The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslye Walton. If you have read the book, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on it, and if you plan on reading it after watching this review, I would love to hear that as well. If you want to follow me elsewhere online, you can find me on Twitter at Sarah Ann Hayes, on Instagram at Sarah Ann Hayes, and my blog is at sarahanhayes.com. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye! So you were pretty sure that's what's, and even though you were, oh my gosh, words are hard today, guys.